And we're ready for the discussions. I have in the studio Andrew Ejapamesa, Member of Parliament for 2nd D, Deputy Minister. No, forgotten. You don't have a position.
You want to be mischievous this morning.
How are you? Good morning.
Morning, my good friend.
How's your weekend and the holiday?
Well,
I know you've been in the constituency.
Yes, I was in 2nd D over the weekend for some activities, funerals and all that.
It's always important, right?
Yes.
Most MPs were in their constituency within the period.
But my weekend was even better yesterday. You know, we followed the infants from school.
And
yeah, absolutely. The National Science and Maths quiz, and it was a joy for me to have. You know, last year they beat us in the final, and we had to come back strongly to demonstrate to them that they know us, they know our pedigree, and so
I'm
it was important for us.
You have a reputation for being bad boys. You smoke weed.
Oh, please. That's an allegation that clearly cannot be substantiated by anybody.
That's a street rumor.
You know, but of course, I mean, consistently, we've been in the final for 4 years running.
Yes, yes.
And that's no mean achievement at all.
It's no fluke.
Absolutely.
No fluke. It takes hard work. It means the teachers and the PTA board, they're working well.
Addis-Adel is back to its old glory. Yeah. And we congratulate the students and the teachers alike for the excellent work that they're doing on our boys. Yeah.
Great, great. That was a great contest there. I was following throughout yesterday.
Yeah.
And you also were in your constituency, giving me pictures of a tree that was cut down and then resurrected. I don't know whether
as it were, because
I said
a tree that has been pulled down for
pulled down
with other trees in a
just to clear land
area, for farming purposes. But the community tells me that it was pulled down. But you know, wood gatherers came to harvest the branches. The stump is lying there, and somehow it's back at where the tree used to be, and it's standing. You know, so
amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing things.
Is he a god? Nobody knows.
The community is yet to know. They are here to perform the necessary rites.
They even have to perform rights.
Yeah, so that is Chate Parliament. It's trailing all over the place. The weekend wasn't good for me. You know, we are mourning the NDC and of course the state. Yeah. Mauli School lost in the semi-finals yesterday. We had high hopes for them, but last year too we lost.
Placed second.
No, placed third. We came after Keta. Keta placed second.
Okay.
To St. Peter's. Last year too we lost in the finals, and so we work harder, like they did, and get to the finals next year. So, but congratulations to the boys, Jikum, and the other chap.
Right,
they've done very well.
And we know that the news had not been good. We came just the early part of Friday. We heard the news bad as it was, and we started getting some snippet of information as to what really happened. We have the Okyenhene giving us a gist at an event yesterday, so let's get to listen to him. And then when we come back, we'll try to analyze some of the issues, but also put into perspective the passing on of a former vice president, Papa Amissah-Arthur.
14 years I've known him in the jail. I have finished my stairmaster. I'm on the stationary bar, sweating profusely, and I had bang. 3 women in the gym were screaming. Left my machine and went and hair lay my friend, trying to find some air to breathe. We gathered around him and pumped his heart as hard as we could. Yelled out his name. His wife was calling out Jesus, save him. I just said, call the ambulance. Let's take him to the hospital. There were about 7, 8 of us. something dawned on me. When we took him out, there was no ambulance, there was no car. We flew the former vice president in the pickup, threw him in the back, and they drove off to 37. At this moment, I went back to the gym and everybody had departed. The place was empty. I just went and got my towel and my phone, called my driver to take me home.
Yeah, and Andrew, let me start with you. There's no ambulance, etc. Of course, we know it's a time of emergency, but we can easily reach for emergency services when we need them in our country.
Sad.
Yeah.
And many a time we think that it's the ordinary people who would suffer these consequences. But clearly, former vice president has suffered it. Someone who left home in the morning, strong, hale and hearty, goes to the gym by himself to exercise. And a natural occurrence, I don't know whether it's a heart condition, because it's not being confirmed. And he is unable to access emergency services. You recall that the former president, President Mills, when he passed also, we heard that there was no ambulance at the time that he was struck, you know, and needed emergency services. Said that they had to carry him in a pickup also to 37 Military Hospital, and he died.
In a pickup.
Well, that's why I said it was said. I mean, I was not there. I do not know for a fact as to the mode of transportation.
What
but
the speculation was
clearly,
yeah.
No, it wasn't a pickup.
Well, what was
it wasn't in an ambulance either, was it?
Yes, it was an official vehicle.
Very well. It wasn't in an ambulance. But we all know what ambulances can do in an emergency situation, because you have trained paramedics who are supposed to man these ambulances and provide some first aid en route to the hospitals before proper care is administered to whoever has been picked up. But we live in a country where I hear we have only 55 ambulances. The UN figures indicate that for every 100,000 people, there should be one. So we're looking at a little over 300 ambulances at the minimum. You wonder how come all these years, Republic of Ghana has failed to procure the requisite ambulances that would help in resolving some of these things.
Well, we had some we had imported, we're told they were not retrofitted, but we could have retrofitted them within the past 1 year. Of course, we have some contractual issues.
I do not know the details of those ambulances, but those ambulances have not been here for a year. And you are the media man, you should know. It was here several, I believe a year before the administration that imported it left office. For whatever reason, they were not put to use. Clearly, they were not fit for purpose. And the media reportage that we've all heard, or at least I have heard, is that the state of those ambulances themselves are irremediable, cannot remedy them.
They can be retrofitted.
Well, why was it not done, or why haven't they been done if those steps could be taken to put them to use? I've seen them sitting at the...
Is it Parliament?
No.
They've been moved?
Air Force.
They are the Air Force.
Base.
Long ago. But you see, like I always say, some of these things we can't play politics with, or we should not. We should come together and collectively, because, I mean, Sickness or illness doesn't know party coloration. Today, unfortunately, it's a former vice president. Tomorrow it could be you or anybody else, could be me. And so we should commit as a people. I know that the pot is not big enough to meet all our development needs. But if one government, for instance, is prioritizing education, which we all know is useful for the benefit of our people, opposition will say, show us infrastructure. We built this and this and this and this.
Well, they're referring to.
So it
has
creates.
been the opposite.
No, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem. I didn't mention any party's name. I was very careful in choosing my words. It creates a certain situation that, hey, and of course, because many of our people are not as complex, they will say that, well, somebody built Dubai, so what have you done? You understand? But if we all as a people agree that there are some fundamentals that we cannot compromise and that necessarily we ought to commit funds to deal with them, then we'll be making progress. After all, there's a lot within the space that we can play the politicking with. But there are some things that I don't think we should. I'm only hoping that the procurement processes, you know, the 2018 budget had some provision in there by the Ministry of Development, Special Development Initiatives, to deploy some of the 1 million per constituency funding to import ambulances for all the constituencies. There are 275 of them, so at least. If that comes in to complement the 55, we would have met the minimum standards that are required. And so I'm only hoping that the procurement processes, if they've commenced, should be off. If they haven't commenced, some expedition ought to go in, because these ambulances are a critical need. And so we can't wait for any longer. You know, that process ought to be completed so that this critical social need can be deployed for the benefit of our people when the need arises.
Very well. Roxy.
Yeah, it's a sad day for Ghana, sad day for the NDC. I'm very reluctant to speak to some of the issues my brother raised, and also by
in relation to
also raised by the Okyenhene in relation to the health subsector of our economy. You see, sometimes you are judged by your conduct, not by speech. The ambulance sitting at the Air Force Base. Yes, we brought them in. And we were to install certain facilities before they were distributed. Indeed, we had brought some in 2013. So my district, for instance, we have an ambulance. We got one of those. But even the way the ambulance service is run, they are also run like a normal state agency. So every now and then, the staff will have to, even where they operate from, they don't have a base. Because you see, you cannot attach the ambulance to the hospital alone. There are emergencies. So they should have an operational base. They don't have one. Just like the fire service, they don't have an operational base in South Dine. Now, where they have to replace the ties to the ambulance, they have to call the MP.
You have to call the MP?
Yes, that they need to replace ties. If the battery is gone bad, they have to call me. So if I am unable to help, then they are in problems.
So the structure in itself is a problem.
Exactly. Now, we speak of the ambulance sitting at the Air Force Base. Why? We brought in a lot other cars under Maslock. They were sitting at some were sitting at the parking, the parking lot at Parliament House, motorbikes, tricycles. They took all of them away within days when they were sworn in and distributed them. So why don't you use the same dispatch to deal with the ambulance sitting down? At least the vehicles have come in as an ambulance. What do we need? Do we need to install an oxygen tank? So we don't do it.
I think the matter with the ambulances, as reported in and also exposed by the Ministry of Health, was that the contract in itself, in terms of the terms of reference, they indicated they needed to be retrofitted, brought as a whole. But apparently, what the current administration and the health ministry came to meet was a half-baked ambulance.
Yeah, so what has taken us 18 months?
So perhaps maybe the contractual issues, trying to
why?
recall the contractor
this
to
is
say,
a government that's, hold on.
Under the warranty
Hold
period.
on, Roland. This is a government that says they are reviewing a lot of contracts. So if after 18 months we've not been able to review such contracts, to deal with the ambulance for them to function for the purpose for which they were brought, then we are doing ourselves in. You see, it is not about the ambulance alone. We have built so many hospitals. The government is simply refusing to operationalize them. And at every opportunity, they raise flimsy issues. So that is why I premise my simple submission by saying that I am judging the government regarding the way it's approaching health of the nation, issues concerning the health of the nation, by their conduct, not by what they tell us. And they have adopted a lethargic way to dealing with the health issues. All right? It is sad. I don't know, because I want to suspect that the vice president went to the Air Force Base, I'm sure in his vehicle, because he lives at Reach, and the Air Force gym, that should be at some distance away, unless the information is that he walked. Okay, so when he collapsed, as it were, I knew that he got up, he was lifted up, he was okay, the signs were that he was okay. Then he was rushed to the hospital. Again, the signs were that he was okay, or he will be fine. So it was not as if he was in a coma. Let's be very clear.
He was not comatose.
No, he was not comatose. When he collapsed, he was lifted up. He was okay, he was revived, he was taken to the hospital. The hospital staff, initial checks, thought he would be okay. But after about an hour or so, he relapsed. So, but the impression is being created as if he collapsed, fell into coma, he was dumped at the back of a pickup. Some of these things, it touches on the sensibilities of families and all issues. So, yes, Okyenhene, he must have witnessed what happened, but I think it was...
We should be sensitive to
a bit.
All right.
A bit.
Let's move on.
You know, so those will be my preliminary remarks, on this matter.
But as usual, whilst I clearly indicated the need for us to look at some of these matters in a nationalistic framework as opposed to the political, he went that route.
I didn't do politics.
You see, last
I
week,
only spoke about the government's conduct.
Please.
So please.
You see,
Make
these ambulances were imported in 2015.
Actually, we're told that they have contractual issues.
You left office in December or January 2017.
Let's not go there.
Between that period, what did you do to those ambulances?
So what are you also doing in 18 months?
If they were fit for purpose,
so what
couldn't you have put them?
You
so
promised to do things better.
And
That's my point.
that's why we are importing
You're not-
ambulances,
How
not
are you?
buses
Ambulances are sitting
that
down.
are useless.
Ambulances are
essentially.
sitting down.
They're not
Okay,
used- they
look,
need to be
yes.
retrofitted.
They are
These are-
useless
no, you see,
completely.
these are some of
Go
the
online, you see
so
stories. Mercedes tells government,
So you see,
convert it to
so you
buses.
see,
They are
hospitals
out
we
there.
are built to,
No.
they are
Please.
useless.
Ambulances can
You
be
see,
retrofitted.
Yes.
Look,
Because
hospitals we are built, they are
because I
also
work at a
useless.
company in which we retrofitted ambulances in Ghana. So
what's the meaning of retrofitting? ambulance?
retrofitting means that just like the factory setting, this one it's outside.
Installing fittings. That's all it means.
You install the
So
Agree-
why didn't you put the fittings in when they came in
stabilizer,
2015
you have-
until you left in January 2017?
Why you can buy vehicles and retrofit to suit
Customize.
a purpose.
Customize.
Look, last week the
Everything
Minister
is
of Health
useless.
was on your sister network, Joy FM. He interviewed him and he indicated the hospitals that he makes reference to, which were not even in his handing over notes. Did you hear him say it? Yet you come and sit here and say that you built hospitals that the government is refusing to
Ejapa,
use. What
if a
impression do you want to create
hospital
out
is
there?
not in your handing over notes, you are telling me University of Ghana Medical Center is not in your handing over notes.
This morning,
So you know operationalize it.
this morning,
That of Anchor Polyclinic is not in your handing over notes. So you leave the facility to rot.
All right, can we move
You
on?
can't run this country like your sole proprietorship.
Can we move on?
can't.
Can we move on? It's okay. It's okay. Let's go, please take some sip of tea. The cool heads should prevail. But let's go to matters arising out of the Electoral Commission's removal. The Electoral Commission
Commissioners.
chair, okay, the chair and two other commissioners' removal, and the matters arising about a leaked tape for which the content seemed to have infuriated former Deputy Minister Felix Kwachiofosu, who is apparently annoyed or
isn't
angry
it perplexing?
over a $12 million allegation of a bribe that was intended for some of the commissioners or even all of the commissioners just within the period or at the end of the 2016 general elections. Now, let's move on. And at the center stage currently, the president seemed to have clarified that his hands were tied, really, as far as he was concerned on all the issues, because constitutionally he was mandated, obligated by the Constitution to take the action that he took. I'll start with you, sir.
Very well. Yet he purports to.
He doesn't purport. He's made an emphatic statement.
Yes.
What do you mean by purport?
You see, he purports to say that his hands were tied, but I know his hands were not tied. You see, in the true and proper interpretation of the words as used in the respective articles in the Constitution concerning this matter, when a reference is made to a petition, for instance, it has to be a properly authored petition. And I'll tell you where the role of the presidency in all this matter has become very critical. The presidency suggests to us that it received a petition, an unsigned and undated petition from some group of people. But somehow, they are again able to tell us from whom they received the petition. So they called a person to provide details. Then a lawyer writes to provide the date that the petition was authored and the names of the persons that supposedly authored the petition.
And you're getting this conclusion from where?
From the statement issued by Mr. Ahin in July last year, in July or thereabout, when this matter broke. All right? So the petition I submitted didn't meet the standard, in my opinion. But the presidency took steps to cure the shortfalls. And even in an attempt to cure the shortfalls, it still didn't meet the standard because there were no signatures. Then, now, it is forwarded to by the constitutional provision to the office of the Chief Justice to act upon it in her administrative capacity, not as the President of the Supreme Court. Okay. Now, she also proceeds to make a determination on the face of the petition. And upon doing so, comes to the conclusion that a prima facie case has been established by the submission, by the petition as handed over to her. But we are further told that there have been 3 petitions. One for the removal of the EC chair, and the other 2 for the removal of her 2 deputies. And now, this becomes such a very important exercise that when the Chief Justice was making a determination of a prima facie case, she ought to have made it public. Her ruling, her determination should have been made public.
Where in the guidelines of the Constitution that is the Chief Justice is compelled or obligated to do that?
It is not about being compelled.
For or because of actions of transparency.
Exactly.
By whose?
So tell tell the public. Tell the public that this is
the process that is supposed to be held in camera.
Please.
A certain part of it should be made public.
No,
you get your point.
Amazing.
You get your time to.
Please. Why? Court sits in camera. Courts, they sit, it's a public hearing, but they don't allow the media to cover. But now we are beginning to admit the media into our courtrooms and to even do live coverage. So there are standards we are gradually introducing into some of these things. So my point simply is this. At the time she made a prima facie determination, she should publish that report.
Why?
Why? It has to be done. I need to know.
Because times are changing?
Yes,
Jesus
no.
Christ.
I need to know her reasons.
Why?
It's a ruling. It's a judicial process. No. It is no.
You sat here and said in her administrative capacity.
Yes.
Now it is a judicial process.
Yeah, it's a quasi-judicial process.
How can you believe this?
Please, Ejapa.
Let him make his submission.
Listening. People are listening.
Please, let
Your
him.
own
I
words.
am saying.
Please let him make his
why?
submission. Please.
In her functions as the administrative head, she's supposed to act. But the Supreme Court states clearly that when you are making a prima facie case determination, it is a judicial process that you undertake. You must evaluate the evidence on the face of it. You don't have to admit any extraneous material. So when you make that determination, give us the reasons that upon evaluating the petition before me, these are my reasons for determining that this petition is worthy of an inquiry. That's all we are asking for.
But
now, why? It says the Benin committee sat in camera. But every day, Daily Guy was realizing the proceedings.
That's a newspaper. I hope that you're not.
But he just said they were sitting in camera. Who admitted them into in camera?
No, it's a newspaper is a journalistic material.
Exactly.
And that literature can speculate.
They were not speculating. They were serializing.
No. So are you saying?
Why? You didn't hear the minority complaint 2 weeks ago?
Are you saying that you take the newspaper publications within the period we're talking about as facts?
Why? We rely on newspaper.
No.
Newspaper.
Not
Hold
as
on.
fact.
Hold on.
Not as fact.
Oh, Roland.
They are informative.
Roland,
but they are not facts.
Roland, I have been a litigation lawyer for some time.
Well, I've also been a journalist for some time.
Yes, I have relied on newspaper publications in court.
Well, good.
As a piece of evidence.
Yes, true.
Got it admitted.
Well, true. I've also reported on court proceedings.
And the court
have been admitted.
The court had the power to place a probative value on whatever has been admitted once it's relevant.
If relevant. If relevant.
Once it's admitted,
if
it is once it's admitted, it
but
is
you're
deemed
not saying
relevant.
hearing in reference to the publication of the
I am
Daily.
saying that he said that the committee was supposed to have sat in camera. And I'm saying even though the committee supposedly sat in
its
camera,
content were
a
leaking.
newspaper was serializing informations that were being interrogated before the committee. So nothing to some sections of the people, some informations were given to others. Others were kept in the dark. Okay. Now, preliminary legal arguments were raised by lawyers for the respondents, and they were dismissed. I took the trouble to read almost the 100-page address, the draft address of Thaddeus Sorry,
who was representing
the EC chair.
Okay.
And the issues that he raised and addressed cogently before the committee. And the committee ignored all this and made a determination, the kind of determination, the finding of fact that they did, and made the kind of recommendation they made as worrisome. Now, these are the issues. The president has since directed, by removing these 3 commissioners, he has since directed that a director in charge of human resource should act
administratively.
How?
How? The commission.
Why? The administrative functions form part of the functions of the office of the EC chair.
But inherently, we don't have anybody sitting in to form a set.
So you see, so they did all these things are being done in a rush without giving the process a second thought.
Why?
The Constitution does not contemplate a director of administration or a director of human resource acting in the official capacity of the commissioners. No. So what is happening? We are running ourselves into some unconstitutionalities here.
What would you have advised?
Why? You take your time. We are told that the report was submitted to him on Tuesday perhaps evening. By Thursday evening, you are dismissing the people because we are told that his hands were tied. You know, the president could have exercised some circumspection and we know that he's touring the country, for instance. So at what point did they rush to Accra to take this?
But you know, we now live in a virtual world.
Exactly. That is what I'm saying. Once this report has been submitted to you and you were doing a countrywide tour, you go and come and look at the issues.
But the president can be driving or can even be sitting in a vehicle or in the seat of a plane
exactly
and be
point.
examining.
Why haven't they hold on
and also be consulting at
hold
the same
on
time.
So why
Virtually.
haven't you as a matter of urgency
very well
made the new nominations?
Sir, your submission as far as this is concerned, because
so let me wind up. So for me, if I were Charlotte and I am aggrieved by the findings of this committee, there are remediable steps available to me.
If there are. Because we'll talk about if there are.
There are.
We'll talk about. Wait.
And if I were here,
because there have been concerns. While you add that, also raised expressively on social media, but also in other literature that has been reviewed, that it was improper in law for the CJ to act upon a non-executed petition, not signed at all. And then also the nature of the standard of proof the CJ committee employed in the inquiry vis-a-vis the Penal Remedies Act 663.
I raised those issues.
Also,
Roland,
the amendment.
I am a strict believer in the rule of law.
Who is not?
Speaking for myself.
If you're a strict believer,
let me make my point, and you understand where I'm coming from.
Please, very well.
I'm a strict believer. And so if Mrs. Osei feels aggrieved by the committee's report, like he said, she ought to go to court. I do not have any qualms whatsoever about that fact if she takes a decision to go to court.
But we're talking
It's
about the
within her right.
the
No, I
electoral
will
body
deal
of our country.
with the electoral body.
Yes.
And he says that what? The president cannot appoint somebody who is working in the institution to hold forth
He's
to
not said
the that's what he said.
No, he said that the president should have exercised.
That's what
I said so. It is unconstitutional.
That's what he
ask
said.
the director of human resource
And
that's your point.
to act in the official capacity as an AC chair.
Roland,
No.
you see, and you asked him that in administrative capacity, he says no, he cannot do that.
Because they are not supervising elections, are they?
Absolutely. Let's read the functions of the Electoral Commission.
Please go on.
As provided in the Constitution.
Please,
Please,
no,
You made the point.
No, please move on.
Roland,
please move on.
Roland, you are aware.
No, I'm not aware. I'm not aware. Please move on. No, please. Don't put it to me. No. Let him make his submission.
You are aware that the Commission of Inquiry.
No. This is not. No. Honorable, no.
That is working towards the creation of the new regime has submitted its report.
No, I'm not aware.
And the law says that once
themselves for the people of Ghana,
you are exposing yourself. I am saying there are 11.
I'm not aware. Please move on.
Listen,
no.
When the Commission of Inquiry has submitted its report for the creation of regions.
Please move on.
And once they do so, the law says they have 6 months within to conduct the referendum. Who conducts the referendum?
Please move on.
So you can't tell me that there are no electoral issues confronting the electoral process.
Not at the moment. When there are impending electoral issues, but they are not.
Within 6 months. The law says within 6 months.
Please relax.
You see,
that's why the president said that it's hurriedly making sure that
the functions of the Electoral Commission. It says the Electoral Commission shall have the following functions. 1. A. To compile the register of voters and revise it at such periods as may be determined by law. Are we doing a compilation of the voters register as we speak?
Read on. It's not only one.
To demarcate electoral boundaries for both national and local government elections. Are we doing a demarcation of electoral boundaries? To conduct and supervise all public elections and referenda. Are we doing so now?
Yes. Are we not going to
educate the people on electoral processes and its methods
or not?
To undertake programs for the expansion of the registration of voters. And to perform such other functions as may be prescribed by law. Which of these functions are being undertaken as we speak?
Referendum.
Has there been an advertised referendum to your knowledge?
Why? The law says within 6 months. Once the report is submitted, the time begins to tick.
There are ongoing activities that relate to these very functions that you've named.
In accordance
unless
with,
perhaps maybe you also want to say that the functions therein are not starting or beginning from the time that all these consultations started.
Absolutely.
You are removing somebody from office for legal breaches.
No, Mr. Roxy,
you are not talking about core functions.
No.
You see, you are not talking about core functions. Today you are citing core functions.
Please move on.
You see, that argument that you guys make.
Which guys?
The NDC.
Oh, please.
We've read your commentary on social media.
It's not fair to the NDC.
It is very fair to them.
I have stated.
Do you recall that the very day that this decision came out, they organized a press conference in the dead of the night? You have forgotten?
We haven't forgotten.
You forgot that they held a press conference in the dead of the night?
Because you see, even before you assume power, you said that you remove this woman.
I don't have a problem with what was said before
or after.
So
when things are happening to dovetail into that declaration, we have every right. We have every right to contest you on those grounds.
Great competencies in doing what you are doing.
Oh, please.
No, you know.
Okay. Now, let me.
You see,
why you say
the attempt
to
politicize this matter and to rope the president in.
Who is politicizing which matter?
The NDC.
Oh, this is a political decision. This is a political decision. You made a political declaration before you executed it.
Every single appointment that is made in this country, people object to it. People raise issues.
No, not true. Not every single appointment.
Why is a public memorandum solicited?
Do you agree? Do you agree
whatever
that as a politician,
I don't have a problem.
No,
listen,
do you agree?
No,
Mr. Japama, do you agree that who occupies the position of the chairperson of the Electoral Commission and the other commissioners is a matter of strict public concern and also a concern for the players? And herein we're referring to the political parties.
I agree.
Good. So why shouldn't it become a concern for them?
I'm making the point that
Please do.
Suggest that because the NPP objected and raised issues about Mrs. Charlotte Osei's appointment, okay, this is some grand scheme to remove her.
Exactly.
When in fact she presided over an election that we won. In the midst of our objection, and I'm saying that look, I personally had issues legally with the mode with which she was taken from one constitutionally protected institution to another. Because the terms and conditions are the same. Okay? But that's a subject for another day. Others had other issues that they put in the public domain.
You said she was a cadre member of the NDC.
Ultimately, yes, some electoral material was put out there to suggest that she had contested on the NDC ticket before. Concocted, I'm not in a position to prove. But I'm saying that regardless of all the objection that we raised, she presided over an election that we won. Now, who uttered the complaint that she lodged at Yoko? Me? Mrs. Osei herself, against her two deputies. When they were making all those counter allegations in the public domain, was it the NPP that was orchestrating this?
Are you acting on the complaint system before you?
So look.
Is that what you are saying?
Look, the public.
So what are you saying? That they began a feud?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it led to several other things, culminating in a petition being submitted to His Excellency
But
the
the
President.
matter is being raised in reference to the circumstances under which the investigation in itself.
I'm raising legal issues.
I got to do with a petition which was not signed.
You see, Roland,
for which perhaps there should have been an admission by the Chief Justice and subsequently forwarded to the constituted committee.
I recall
yes,
quite clearly.
Please do.
The petition that was submitted to the office of the President was under the signature of a lawyer who said that he was acting for certain persons that he did not name, and that those persons have engaged him to submit a petition on their behalf. So if a lawyer has sent a letter to me and the letter does not disclose the names of the petitioner, am I not entitled to ask him that, look, the letter that you submitted, in acknowledging the letter, to say that there were no names of the petitioners, and that if you can furnish us with the name of the petitioners, we'll act on it. And if the presidency does that, you say what? It was actuated by bad blood, malice. Please, in any event, you ask him that where in the Constitution does it say that when the Chief Justice makes a prima facie determination, she ought to make it public? Where? There's nowhere. And he says that in the interest of transparency. But who says that the persons against whom this petition was made were not notified of whatever reasons that had been made for a prima facie case, and that they should come and answer?
Well,
why do we always want to do this?
But sir, here lies a case that even though these could be raised, now we have a lot of conspiracies.
May I have a
Roland, is it surprising to you that there will be a lot of conspiracy?
No, but it's not good for the image of the country. Not good for the image of the Electoral Commission.
As far as I'm concerned, it is expected in a regime such as the one we live in, where every single item is politicized, such that they are crying more than the bereaved herself. She has a legal remedy in law. And as a strict believer in the rule of law, I would encourage her. It enriches our democracy that if she thinks that the process, in any event, it is not for nothing that the Supreme Court makes provision for her to seek remedy when the committee makes its recommendation. Let her go to court and let the court determine that the issues that they raised in their address, and I'm surprised that he says that after reading the almost 100-page address by Mr. Tadiosori, lawyer for Mrs. Osei, he didn't say that he read the address of the petitioner's lawyers, and that is irrelevant, and that because Mr. Sori advocated certain points in his address, that becomes gospel. Please, what are we talking about? Have you taken time to read what the other people too said? That you haven't, conveniently. And that we should all take Thaddeus's address as gospel. Which law is that? Every adjudicatory body, like he knows, it's a scale. That's the essence of the scale of justice. You put in your evidence. The other party puts in this evidence. And where the scale tilts is where the axe ought to fall. Fundamental principle that you and I learned in law school. But you have read only one side of the address, and you say that because he raised certain issues in it, and the committee just ruled him off. his address is
It's okay. Take a sip. Take a sip. Take a sip. So,
may I have a
so the
rebuttal?
remedies. Where can she seek remedy?
To the Court of Appeal.
Court of Appeal.
Now,
how quick
hold
does
on,
she?
hold on, hold on.
You want to make a?
I need to rebut.
submission?
It says certain things.
Like what?
Now, in reading the 54-page report, the committee failed to even tell me, a trained mind, as to the standard of proof.
But how you feel is irrelevant.
No.
It is.
No, it is very, very important. When you are evaluating
So
evidence.
go and appeal.
No, when you are evaluating evidence, are you evaluating the evidence based on certain standards? If so, we need to know.
But how you feel
is it on the balance of probability standard? Or on the standard prove beyond reasonable?
What do you think it is?
It ought to be proved beyond reasonable, that because you see, the law we are dealing with makes a penal provision, which provision says that when you are determined to have breached the law, which is a legal breach, you are penalized by paying a fine. I think in the new amendment it talks about 1,200 penalty units. Now, or in the alternative, a 5-year term imprisonment. So clearly criminal. So when somebody brings things to you for you to evaluate, you tell us the standard that you are adopting. If you adopt a civil standard, it is much, much lower than the criminal standard. You understand? So these are all legal issues that may come up. I don't see those things in the report. And the tenor of the language of the report it's only supposed to achieve one conclusion.
Which is what?
To damn the respondents, or in particular the EC chair.
Let me ask you.
Because they've been harping on the word misconduct, stated misbehavior, incompetence. Everything, every diction that was employed was channeled towards achieving or harping on the word misconduct or incompetence.
But let me ask you this.
But you see, in the contemplation of the framers of the Constitution, when they gave those 3 grounds, stated misbehavior, incompetence, or infirmity of mind, these are not things that are associated with your core functions. They are things that must be established. For instance, infirmity of mind, it has to be by a medical report. So a legal breach cannot, in the contemplation of the framers of the Constitution, constitute a stated misbehavior or incompetence.
What do you think is the cure for it then?
It belongs to a different genre.
Now,
they've conveniently forgotten
no.
the legal principle that a single act or omission can trigger multiple legal consequences. They forget. Because it's convenient for them.
Japa, we haven't forgotten.
So why are you not articulating it?
I am only saying that.
You sit here, you are a trained mind, and I know you are a trained mind.
I am
but
saying that the Benin Committee has run itself into constitutional roadblocks
Roland,
in this matter.
I would insist
and inconsistencies.
that purely for purposes of enriching our democracy, and because I personally believe strongly in the rule of law, Mrs. Osei has a remedy. I'm not saying angels constituted the committee. Okay? They are human beings. They evaluated the evidence put before them. They could err. And so there is a remedy in law for her. If she is aggrieved, by all means. But to suggest that the committee did something untoward, I fail to understand. Unless, of course, you are, as usual, playing your mischief.
They did it to fit a certain agenda.
I'm always saying that.
My time is up. As we conclude on this discussion,
you and I, we have conversations privately, and I know the values that we share, common values, to a large extent, except that you say you are in the social democratic mode, and I'm capitalist.
In the capitalist
mode. And so we differ on approach, but by and large, I know how passionate we are about our country. And so we agree that we don't have to toe the line of that unbridled politicization of every issue.
That's not
These are legal matters.
Mr. Roxon.
Okay?
Mr. Roxon.
Let's not drop politics into everything. It doesn't help us.
Is the tea finished?
We're wasting our time
a sip.
as a nation.
But
fighting over these matters that clearly
Mr. Roxon,
there are legal
Roxon,
remedies to resolve.
we are
I
not
said, I don't
fighting.
get it.
Mr. Roxon,
Yes.
but you know, curiously, you take a reading of all that you may have posited, others may have posited, either on social media or mainstream media. For somebody, or let's say anybody who holds a very important position as such as the EC,
Yes,
any other
question.
equivalent institution, if you breach certain procedures which perhaps raise questions about your ability to conduct yourself in office administratively, properly, couldn't it be a normal grounds to say you, even though what the law says, you are a respected member of our society, you hold that position of high office, and so those breaches should not be coming from you, and per se it means that we can evoke the regulations of the law that could take you out of office. Makes sense. Set you as an example for others.
You see,
no matter
the
who
point,
you are.
the point you are making.
It's just a moral argument.
Yes, because you see, to establish a legal breach, because we are talking about breach of statute.
Yes.
If you are alleging that a statute has been breached, the forum, convenience, as we say in law, is the courtroom.
Well.
Is the courtroom. Okay? Now, if you speak of an officer, a public officer,
Not just a public officer.
I agree.
But an officer of no mean repute.
Yes. Like,
holding
like
a high
this one.
office.
Okay.
We're saying it's equivalent to what?
A court of appeal judge.
Yeah, fantastic.
A court of appeal judge. That is why the removal.
If you flout procurement procedures, that's serious.
No.
You should be an example for others to
no,
uphold.
No, because see, she's not heading the Ghana Procurement Authority. Okay? Where the
You mean the Public Procurement Authority?
Yes. Where the core functions will be about procurement, and procurement. But the committee suggests that procurement is such an important function of a office. Strangely.
No.
No.
Decisions on procurement.
No, but they said procurement. I mean, decisions
I know what they
constitute
said.
procurement.
Yeah, sure.
Anything you procure.
Sure.
The committee is saying that.
Roxon,
Hold
that's
on.
not what the committee said.
Oh, but that's what they said.
The committee said
Yes.
that Mrs. Osei claimed that procurement was not a core function,
Yes.
was not fundamental
Yes.
to her job.
Yes.
And so
there are
she
mere
cannot-
breaches.
Yes. And the committee said that if they were acts that were not of such importance, why did you, as the head, take the pains to write letters on procurement
Not
and
one,
even award
Not
contracts?
one, not two.
Exactly.
Consistently.
Hold on.
And that's what the
You
report.
considered
hold
that
on,
function to
hold
be
on.
Yeah.
as important.
Hold
That
on.
is why you perform those
Hold on.
functions.
Mr.
That's
Roxy
what the
says, hold
committee
on.
said.
Well, please wrap up for us. You are wrapping
Yes,
up.
one of the
are wrapping up.
one of the pitfalls that the committee has run itself into.
Which is what?
So you acknowledge that in the course of official functions, she's taking the trouble to ensure that things were done properly.
It turned out those things were not done properly.
Out
after
of-
all.
You see?
That things will be done, but within procedure.
Yes.
It should have been within
Yes,
procedure, not flouting.
within administrative
Yeah,
procedure.
should have been
You
undertaken.
understand?
Yeah.
So in one
That's
point
it.
they said, well, there's a committee, a panel of I've forgotten the it's a
You mean the
tender
entity
panel,
tender
the
committee?
entity tender panel. She headed it,
Yes.
and that aside from their review, they don't refer it to the other tender committee.
It didn't go to the
So,
Central Tender
yes.
Review Committee.
So
Yes.
once that was not done, and she's breached the law.
She flouted basic
And I'm
administrative
saying that it's a
procedures. and-
mere-
Which
It's a
clearly
clear breach.
goes to demonstrate the
It's a
incompetence
clear
that the
breach.
Constitution
Oh,
mentions.
please, incompetence. No, you just read the official functions. All right. If she demonstrates incompetence in the course of performing these official
In
functions,
compiling the electoral register,
you understand?
ah,
So,
in
so
conducting public elections, that's
this,
it.
you don't do this in an administrative forum. If you want to establish
So
a
you're
legal
saying that,
breach,
yeah.
it
Okay,
has
I get
to
your
be-
point.
The
I get
forum
your argument.
convenience is the courtroom. All right.
Okay.
Now, to determine issues about stated misbehavior, incompetence, infirmity of mind, and all, there are different indices There are different indices.
I suppose you want 146 or you want 43.
There are different indices to determining what constitutes, what in the truer construction of the constitutional, the words as used in the constitution will constitute a stated misbehavior, will constitute incompetence, will constitute an infirmity of mind. There are checklists. They are not legal breaches.
The checklists are in the constitution.
No. I said there are checklists.
Where is it?
Legal breach.
The checklist is the entirety of the laws of the Republic of Ghana.
Cannot, in my opinion, constitute
the grounds for which she should be.
Exactly.
Roland, let him show us the checklist.
So you think that she should have just been punished?
You see, the committee made certain recommendations per inquirium after they prepared the report. I don't have those, but I think
that she should occupy the position of EC by just being punished.
No. They made certain recommendations that the EC must henceforth ensure that administrative procedures are adhered to.
That's post-part, after she's gone.
Yes, but you don't do that. These are recommendations.
So that a future electoral commissioner
will not repeat
her basic
That is why it was a committee of inquiry. You could make
Roxy Nelson, the farmer, is a member of parliament for South Sudan. It's been a delight having you. Did you like the tea? That's not bad.
The 3-in-1.
Yeah, 3-in-1. And then we had Andrew Japamesa, member of parliament for Sekendi. They are good acquaintances and friends, by the way. It always helps us to get more education on the subject as far as the law is concerned. These days, we tend to be encountering the law as we're growing as a democracy. I guess we all need to be educated on.
It's surprising why they are unable to point to the stated misbehavior, incompetence
in
the Constitution.
We're taking a break. When we come back, we also need to tell you that as far as we are concerned, we're going to bring you details about what is taking place on the grounds. The National Science and Maths Quiz, and we know that at least 3 schools they've gone through, and we also need all of them to be set for the final. I know
which other school qualified?
The final will be taking place on Thursday. Please don't worry. But we're also promising you we're going to bring you great previews prior to the MPP's, is it National Delegates Conference?
Yes.
That will be taking place in Kofodia in the Eastern region. And we'll be there live. Prior previews and the live period within that Delegates Conference. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll have a lot more for you right here on the show. Stay on.